Yes.
How many got 7, 8, 9?
Yeah. Somebody may want a copy, but I wouldn't, it's not, this is just a draft, so I wouldn't really give the draft out to anybody. Except the board and James, I have a copy here, I'll be all on my electronic copy.
Mine doesn't have.
Stop and I come back. It was not. Yeah.
Big ass. Mark.
Yeah.
We're gonna get started. We have a Boy Scout here. Do you mind lead us in the pledge? Appreciate that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for waiting. It's Eric's fault.
You can check that one off your America. You got that. Good news. Okay, so you may not believe this, but there was a lot of people running for our seats for the school board. 3 of us were up. So myself, trustee Knox, trustee Binion. Nobody had the guts to run against us, so we're in again. So there's your good news. If we get a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We get a motion to approve the consent agenda as within our packet, unless anyone wants to be pulled out for discussion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Delegation none, public input. Albert, anybody send that? Thank you. All right. Thanks, reports, Mr. Vick, the annual fiscal year district audit.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Hale from Harris CPA is going to present the audit report.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me tonight. Levi, am I set up to be able to share my screen?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay, can you guys see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay, so I believe Levi already distributed copies of a draft of the financial statements to all the board members. So I just kind of wanted to go through a bit of our process and just some high level results of our audit, and then I'd be happy to answer any specific questions you guys might have. So again, my name is Hale Fields. I'm a partner with Harris CPAs, and I oversaw the audit for Mountain Home School District this year. So we'll go over just a brief overview of the audit, some significant items, new standards that were implemented this year, a couple financial highlights, and then other required communications. So our goal in this audit was to provide an opinion on the financial statements, an opinion as to whether the financial statements were fairly presented. We do that by following generally accepted accounting principles, generally accepted auditing standards, and governmental auditing standards. So the timeline for our audit work, we started planning back in July. We performed our field work during late August and early September, and then we issue the report this month upon approval. So a brief overview of the process that we go through. We use a risk-based approach to our audits. So we identify areas that we think are most significant to the financial statements, or areas that are higher risk, and we focus on those areas. So during the planning phase, we circulate engagement letters. We gain an understanding of the entity and internal controls and any changes that have happened from the past year. Identify any areas that we consider might be higher risk. Conduct some risk analysis, fraud interviews, and kind of a preliminary analytical review. During our fieldwork phase, this is when we're out there on site working with Levi and his team. We focus on higher risk audit areas and areas that we think are more significant compliance risks or areas more susceptible to error. We do our detailed testing involving review of invoices and other supporting documentation, review agreements and contracts, and complete all of our testing procedures on site. And then the reporting phase, we're wrapping up the audit. A lot of communication back and forth with Levi and his team to get final documentation and support, drafting and reviewing the reports, evaluating any subsequent events, and drafting our management letters, performing final analytical review. So that's kind of an overview of the process that we go through for the audit. Now, within our financial statement, there's 3 opinions that we issue. The first is the report on the audit of the financial statements. So that's where we're providing an opinion as to whether we feel that the financial statements are materially correct. So we have an unmodified opinion or a quote unquote clean opinion on the financial statements. So we don't believe that there are any material errors in the financial statements. The second report that we provide is a report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit performed in accordance with government auditing standards. This is a required report that we issue for any governmental financial statements. Basically just stating that we have performed additional testing and review of the internal controls related to issuing governmental financial statements. And we believe that the controls are appropriate and in place. And the last report we issue is a report on compliance for each major program and on internal control over compliance. This is the single audit report, which is required when you have government or when you have federal expenditures of over $750,000. So each year we do a single audit for the school district in addition to our normal audit procedures. And this is where we identify major federal programs that are required to be tested. And we do detailed testing of the expenditures to make sure that everything is in compliance with the requirements from those individual funding sources. So new this year, we implemented GASB 96. That's a new governmental accounting standard for subscription-based information technology arrangements. Last year, we implemented the new standards related to leasing, where we basically recognize right-of-use assets on the balance sheet and lease liabilities. This is very similar to that, but it's looking at long-term IT subscriptions. So these are like multi-year software subscriptions that most school districts have. And we're basically recognizing an asset for the right to use those subscriptions and recognizing the related liabilities for future payments. Some financial highlights on the statement of net position. Total assets were approximately $34.7 million in fiscal year 2023 compared to $31.7 in fiscal year 2022. So an increase there. Non-current assets make up approximately $14.1 million of that, in fiscal year 23 compared to 12.2 million in the prior fiscal year. That's mostly capital assets, buildings, improvements, equipment. Total liabilities increased by 17 million in the statement of net position. And I wanted to highlight that because it's a big swing from the prior year, but it's almost entirely due to the net pension liability that's required to be recognized in the financial statements. So this is basically just recognizing Mountain Home's proportionate share of Percy's net pension liability. So it's not really a liability to the school in the sense that it's, you know, a bill that needs to be paid. It's just recognizing that this is the Mountain Home School District's proportionate share of the Percy system's net pension liability. And then unrestricted net position decreased by about 900,000 during the fiscal year. Over on the statement of activity side, revenue and other support increased from the prior year by approximately 8.2 million. This was due to mostly to increases in state funding and increases in grants, and expenses increased by approximately 4.6 million. We also provide communications with those charged with governance, so with the board as part of our audit process. There's things we're required to communicate, like if we are aware of any deficiencies in internal control that we would consider to be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, and we did not identify any, so we have none to report. We've discussed significant accounting policies. We disclosed in our communication that we had no disagreements with management, and we had no need for consultation with other third parties. And any journal entries that were posted as a result of the audit process were either provided by Levi and his team or reviewed and approved by Levi and his team. One other difference from last year, during our single audit process, the number of major programs that we test will vary from year to year, just depending on the level of expenditures and the timing of those programs. This year we tested 5 major programs in the single audit, and we didn't have any issues of non-compliance. Does anybody have any questions?
So Hale, really overall, no concern for any of our processes.
No, we didn't find anything concerning. And again, I'd like to thank Levi and his team. They're always great to work with through this process. So they make it a very smooth process for us.
Okay. I'll go through there. Any questions for him? No. Hale, thank you. If we have questions, we'll certainly chat to Levi and you if necessary.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Air Force Base update. Dominic.
Like the light off, I'm just kidding. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, so the school year is going by really fast. We're like already at the end of Q1 this week, so good job, everybody. But field trip, so if anyone is interested in a field trip in the spring, just please contact me by early January so we can get those field trips scheduled for anybody that's wanting to go on base. Base volunteers in the first 2 months of the school, we've had volunteers from anywhere from military men and women to reading to our children, to helping with the festivals, to getting tables for the PSATs at the high school last week. So we've had a lot of volunteer involvement, and I hope it continues to grow. And it's nice to kind of forge those relationships with our military men and women in the schools. I've been receiving 27th, so keep the nominations coming in. It's nice to recognize all of our teachers for all of their hard work. I have received the 2023-2024 scholarship information a few weeks ago, so if anybody's interested in the list of scholarships for our students, please contact me. I'm happy to kind of divvy that out to everybody as well. Veterans Day, I sent out an email to all of the principals last week to see if they wanted any military presence within the school. I've heard back from a few, and our Mount Home Air Force Base Wing Commander, Colonel Michael Alfaro, will be the guest speaker at Mount Home High School on November 10th. So that's pretty awesome. We have Major White going out to Stevenson to be the guest speaker as well. But if anybody else is interested, please let me know. I'm happy to kind of arrange that. I will be TDY from November 6th through the 17th. So contact me before or after if you need anything. I'm happy to help. I'll be at the MIC3 conference in Virginia. But I look forward to providing any assistance. If anybody needs anything, volunteers, help, assistance, I am here. So please reach out if you guys need anything. That's about it. Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about, in your letter to us, you had something about the resiliency training?
Yes, so resiliency training. So I actually took this course myself a couple months ago, and the military prevention specialists and myself are wanting to come out. It could be on a staff development day, it could be after school on something like this. It would be 3 other resiliency training instructors, and what that would look like is it would be about 2 hours, and we would kind of focus on different tools and skills to kind of carry on into the classroom to teach kind of resiliency and kind of foster those relationships. But it's an amazing course. It's not only something that you can kind of use within the classroom, it's something that we can take on an everyday basis. And the course itself, I promise you, you will leave the course feeling much better than when you got there. The skills and the tools that is taught in this course will be able to impact and guide you in relationships with your students, your faculty, and your other staff members as well. But if anyone is interested, we already have 4 different resiliency training instructors at Mount Home Air Force Base that are very eager and wanting to kind of help facilitate this course. So if anybody is interested, please let me know, and we're happy to come out and whatever works best for the schools and the staff, and we can come out and do that training course.
Any other questions? Thank you. Swan.
Thank you.
Building presentation, Mr. Dewar.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, always look forward to my 25-minute presentation highlighting Bennett Mountain High School. The audit didn't take very long, so I got to fill in some time, right?
No, we appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm here for you, man. So, okay, I'll get this going here. Okay, another great year going on at Bennett Mountain. It's very brief, honestly, this presentation, but just want to highlight a couple things, and I'm always about you guys asking me any questions you might have about the school. So just some of the things I'm going to talk about, give you an update on the community school, how one town, one team is impacting Bennett, program success indicators, a new program we started, looking into some upcoming services, and the Tiger Strong movement. So again, community school, a lot of people ask what a community school is. It's obviously a place where you have a partnership with the community and provide resources for students, and not just the school, but also district-wide. The things that we do offer: student support, childcare services, mental health, food pantry, and we're currently working on on-demand virtual care, which I'll touch on a little bit later here. Student support, we're still always trying to find ways to help our students, and again, district students as well. We take welfare requests. We use a lot of our monetary donations to assist students in need. We have our big turkey bowl coming up in a month, looking to give out 100 frozen turkeys and about 40 or 50 hams this year. So yeah, we're getting bigger. So this is good. Friday breakfast, I always put that on there because every Friday, at least for Bennett students, we actually we cook food. The staff takes turn cooking breakfast for students. We try to up our ADA on Fridays by providing food. We don't follow guidelines on what food we serve. So sorry about that, but the kids like it, and the kids come to school, it's a win. Child care services is just blowing up. This year, since, 2018, 2019, we actually have a teen parent using the daycare. We have about 14 children in there, and it's all used by district staff members. So we actually hired an additional person to take that on, and we're already full, and we have a wait list with district staff members. So the reason I'm pointing this out to you guys, where we're starting to compete with other districts on how do we retain and hire new staff members, this is a win, just so you guys know. So anyway, been great. School-based counseling, this thing is just continues to grow. You know, it started at Bennett. It is expanded to Mountain Home Junior High School and then Hacker Middle School, and they're currently trying to find ways maybe next year to get down to the elementary levels. And I put Mountain Home High School just because of space. Mountain Home High School students come to Bennett Mountain for that school-based counseling, but obviously a big need there as well. But it is starting to trickle down into the younger grade. So food pantry is still rocking every second Wednesday of the month, except for July, because teachers and staff, we like our Julys. So we provide food boxes. That's been pretty effective, and we've seen about ranging from anywhere from 120 boxes every month to, I think we've got up to 180 sometimes. So there's a need for that as well, and it's really cool to see like other students and people get involved and being part of that boxing of food and also distributing of the food. What's really cool is the food drives. You know, a lot of these other schools now, like high school, junior high, when they raise all their food, and like Powder Puff was using canned food, it all comes to Bennett Mountain. We box it up and give it out to the community. So food pantry is awesome. Now the one town, one team, the reason I'm mentioning this because this is kind of the thing that gets overlooked in terms of our success at Bennett Mountain. And the one thing when we opened this school was, do we keep Bennett Mountain High School students separate from Mountain Home High School students? And going into it, we knew that we need to provide these kids opportunities as well. And the big thing was like athletics or offer classes that we don't offer at Bennett. We only have 6 teachers, so we can only offer so many things, especially CTE courses. So we've seen a lot of success with our students going over there, taking classes. The reason I took this picture kind of means a lot to me we actually had a set of twins that were started in our junior high program, graduated last year, but one of them's a 2-time state champion in wrestling. One of them won their first state championship, but they both won district championships. Then we had 4 people placed at state last year. And that's basically the Mountain Home Wrestling program right there. So I'm kind of looking forward to ways to create a 1A powerhouse. Maybe we could start recruiting all the athletics that come to Bennett Mountain and dominate the 1A. So, but no, it's just overall, you know, again, this just helps the experience of the student, and I think just the one town, one team. Again, it's just we're all in this together. So, some program indicators. The big things that we always look at are credit completion rate and 4-year graduation rates. At alternative school, it's very difficult to just go off of ISAT testing or standardized testing because we may only have 5 kids testing 1 year. And some years we've had 5 kids that were distinguished and they nailed the test. The next year I have below basic. So you can't, those numbers, you can't get any significant data on that stuff. So these are the big 2 things we do is credit completion rates and then the 4-year graduation rates. On average, kids come to us with about a 62% chance of earning credits. And then their time at Bennett, we up that to about 98. Again, it's just the way how we structure things. We focus on 4 classes at a time versus your traditional 7. And then we block it up into 9-week semesters versus, you know, full semester at traditional high school. Graduation rate, we take a lot of pride with this one. Just since 2020, 84%, following year 77%, 74%, and then last year we experienced our highest with 89%. And just so you guys know, the alternative school average is about 32%. So we're different, and again, we pride ourselves on the whole graduation rate. The Alternative Placement Center. So this is a new program we just implemented this year. Obviously a huge need for this. This is what we call the APC. And this is actually kind of works in your guys' favor as well. You know, we created Bennett Mountain as not a dumping ground for behavior students. But there is a need to address certain students that do need kind of another opportunity, a different route, almost like a last chance in a way. So we created this APC program and we house it in one of our rooms right now. It is like 100% online credit recovery. We have one person that oversees it. What we did is we're modeling off of a school called Rebound, which is the Meridian School District's Last Chance High. We break it up into AM and PM sessions. So a student, we're not putting them in front of a computer for 6 hours. They pick a session, morning or afternoon. They're there for 3 hours working on classes and then they leave. That's all they're doing. And to start this off, we obviously didn't just have tons of discipline referrals to get kids in here. So what we found, this kind of interesting makeup here, we actually started, the counselors at Mount Home High School and administration started contacting kids that did not graduate the year before. They should have been graduated. So I put SS, we used to call them super seniors, but so we have 3 kids in that grade level, 3 seniors, 6 juniors, and 9 sophomores. And the cool thing is that you got 8 previous dropouts. So we've got them back in school. And this has only been happening for 1 block, or our block ended last week. So some of the things that we're seeing, the kids that were coming in had about a 29% completion rate in terms of credits. And this is all collective, sorry, I didn't just based off individual students, but this is collectively. There's 191 discipline referrals from junior high to high school amongst that group. And then habitual absenteeism. And guys, that's kind of a battle everyone's fighting in alternative schools, but we're starting to see it in normal schools too, is absenteeism. But after the first block here, each kid that was in that program has now earned 4 credits. And that's actually on pace to what our Bennett Mountain kids are doing too, is at least 4 credits every block. We only had 2 discipline referrals and basically improved attendance. We still battle it among some of the kids, but we're seeing a huge turnaround. And we think it has to do with that 3-hour session. They come in, they get stuff done, and then they can go get a job, go work and things like that. So that level of engagement is a lot better in that short amount of time. Next thing, this is more the community school piece of it. St. Luke's reached out to us before the school year, and they wanted us to basically give us the opportunity to implement on-demand virtual care. So if a student's feeling ill, if a staff member is feeling ill, it's almost like a primary health within your own building. So they can come into a room, log in, and talk with the doctor online. So we are still in the process of developing that a little bit, because right now space is an issue. That's the big thing. But Jeff did send a survey out district-wide, and just to see what the interest level was in having on-demand virtual care. You can see from the staff, over 60% were saying like, hey, they'd be interested in doing that. Granted, there's 150 responses from parents, and we know there's a lot more parents than that, but it's pretty good numbers starting off with that. People would like the opportunity to have their kids just stay in school, go see someone online in front of a computer, and then go back to school if they can. So that's what we're working on right now. Finally, You Are More. The reason I bring this one up is because it's actually called the Tiger Strong movement. I'm working with Ava Johnson at Mount Home High School, and I have the opportunity to coach Ava. And she had this, I'm sure you've seen all the stories, but she had this idea of addressing mental health among kids. So I've been very involved in trying to get this going, and it's been a pretty big success, and it's growing faster than we realize here. But what we want to try to do is, it started off with just student athletes, but we knew it was bigger than that. So our goal is actually to take what they call an upstream preventative measures in terms of addressing mental health. And it's more of a community approach. So when you hear that You Are More, or people see You Are More, and that's why we blast all over the shirts and wristbands. And we just want to start telling kids at a young age, it's like, you guys have self-worth, you are more important than you realize. And that's a community approach. So if we can start that young, you prevent them from going downstream to where they need more services and things like that. So I did put some sponsors up there. They don't want to be recognized, but I'm going to recognize them anyway. Shane Zenner, he's Pioneer, and then the Freer Foundation, they put some money into this program. And obviously, again, it was really cool to see on homecoming, driving down parade, all these You Are More shirts and people wearing that. So again, it's to address mental health. And I think the counselors are working on how it gets incorporated at the younger levels, so we're rolling with that, so that's all I have. I'm done. After my graduation. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, fire away, fire away, fire away.
The telehealth,
Yes.
is that something that's gonna be a Bennett only, or is that something they're looking at doing?
So right now, we thought just piloting at Bennett, this is a smaller sample. The only issue I think we're gonna run into is that we may not be big enough to, I don't know, attract enough people. And then right now it comes down to space, physical space, and we're using every single room right now. So that's why Jeff sent the survey out to get feelers on maybe there's a different school that's seen a higher need. And then we're gonna work with our district nurse on this whole thing too, so. Yeah. Just depends on where it's gonna take us. So.
Thank you.
So it seems like as a community school, you guys have got it figured out. You guys are doing a lot of good things. Are there other community schools that you get it, inquired from? Hey, what are you guys doing? What's working? And you guys do the same thing on the flip side.
We're part of a cohort we started last year, a community school, and the community school is kind of not new, but there's a lot of school or very few schools doing it in Idaho. You had like a lot of the Canyon County schools, they had the resources and bigger city schools that could do that. So we kind of started modeling stuff after them. After we joined this cohort, we just didn't realize we're actually pretty far ahead of the curve right now. Again, we've been very fortunate for people reaching out to us, like St. Luke's, Desert Sage. And yeah, we attended online things to see what other schools are doing, and it's just different in different places, because if you don't have the resources, it's really hard to do. But yeah, so
Really good stuff.
thanks.
Any other questions?
Trustee Knox, any questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Safety and security report, Mr. Long. We'll see if I can get logged on here. No. All right, there we go. All right, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you for letting me share with you guys some of the things that we have in place within the district as far as security and all the things that come as far as part of that, as far as communication prevention, and the piece there, you can't see it up there as far as the future goes. Some of this stuff is pretty direct and to the point, so I'm not gonna read every slide to you guys, but I just want to give you a background of some things that you need to consider as far as down the road, because a lot of this stuff costs quite a bit of money as far as implementing it. So the definition that I put up there is the state of being or feeling secure from freedom, in danger and doubt. So it's just one of those things, whereas things that we need to keep in mind is they're already starting to do studies as far as you starting to add, let's say, metal detectors actually starts having a negative effect on the mindset as far as kids feeling safe in their building, because it presents something different. So it's just those things I just want you to keep in mind as far as I go through this stuff, because there's a lot of talk out there about hardening schools and doing those type of things. So it's about what's appropriate for our school and our community and what our needs are. So some of the things that we have in place are at the front door. It's just that Nest. You probably hear quite a bit on the news and advertising as far as being able to talk with somebody at the front door, to get a video of that person so you can directly communicate with that person before you let them in. And then we have the badge control doors, we have cameras, we have doors remain locked at all times, we have SRO security, and a big component of that is the communication piece. And so this is just really straightforward as far as just how many badge control doors that we have in the school district. And as you can see there, West has 14.
The reason why that jumped up quite a bit from this year is because of those portables. So you have 3 portables in 2 classrooms apiece, and then you start adding, let's say, control doors to the backside of the school to access the building and access bathrooms. So each building is gonna be a little bit different. And so that shows you just how much those things cost, about $5,000 per door in order to do this. And some of this is dictated by what you're kind of drilling through and how you're getting stuff wired to make that door function. So some of these doors depend on the age of the door, the style of the door, is a lot more expensive. So those are things that we just have to keep in mind, and as we move forward, we have more requests coming in for those access control doors, and so every building has needs and more doors that they'd like to have access to, but everything comes with a cost. As far as the cameras go, you see as far as the type of cameras that we have 360, 180, 270, and all that. So indoors, outdoor cameras, so depending on, let's say, what you have indoor, outdoor, it's gonna drive up the cost and what you're trying to address. So those fisheye cameras are just typically at the front door. Let's say it looks down, gives you a 360 view, but it doesn't go very far. So depending on the building, depending on what the needs, depending on where the issues are, will kind of dictate kind of what kind of camera you're looking to have in the building. And so again, a lot of these things have come into place from as far as maybe addressing vandalism to addressing security within the school day, or just trying to figure out what's going on around the building at night or whatever it may be. So a lot of these things, as far as the cost, a lot of stuff has been paid for as far as the cameras, the badge readers have been paid from Title IV funds. So that's where a lot of that stuff has come from. Safe and drug free has been paid for counseling in the past. So just to give you an idea of where those funds have come from in the past. Just our approach as far as classroom doors go. We just want to have the doors remain locked at all times when there's students in the classroom. And so when the teacher is just maybe having a prep or coming and going as they need it during a prep or whatever it may be before the school at the end of the day, they don't have to have that. So it's within reason. And so we also talk about, let's say, what's a high traffic area as far as, let's say, the office area, certain areas, kind of defeats it. It's kind of hard to manage to keep the door locked when people are coming and going quite a bit out of there. So we're just trying to keep things within reason and make things doable and while we accomplish this. So as we replace door locks, we're trying to get a double locked where a teacher can lock a door from the inside. And this costs quite a bit of money. Because before the issue is, and it's been a long issue, as far as a teacher having to go outside the door, lock the door if it was unlocked. And now they can do that. And one of the benefits of doing that is the kid says, hey, I'm leaving. You can't hold me. You can now lock that door and that kid can't leave. So it gives you that ability to do that. So, but again, that costs quite a bit of money to do that. The other thing that we do is just, quarterly go around and check the doors to make sure the doors are locked as far as outside doors, inside doors. And it's just a reminder, and it also helps us identify what doors we may be having issues with as far as they're locking, bad frames on doors, whatever it may be, bad latches, whatever it may be. This helps kind of identify some of those issues and get some of those things taken care of sooner than later. So as far as staffing goes, we have two people as far as district employee, as far as security goes, one at the high school, one at the junior high. We have one SRO. And you guys probably already know as far as just the staffing that the Mountain Home PD is having as far as trying to get somebody to be an SRO within the school district because they're short on staff as well. And so another alternative option to this that another school district in our conferences has done is they went out and hired a private security to be able to provide armed security at 10 elementary schools. And I think it's at a cost of $576,000. Oh, there it is. And so they paid that over the course of the school year. That was not this year, but last year. So those are things that, when those are hot topics as far as things that get brought up, as far as having armed security. And so usually those come in response to something that happened at another school at some point in time. But those are just things just to keep in mind as far as what the cost is to have those things in place. As far as communication goes, one of the things that we work with the Mountain Home PD and the Elmore County Sheriff's Office is we adopted a new poster to help with communication and make sure that we're all using the same language. And we're responding in the same way as far as that language. And so you probably heard recently, as far as I think in Boise or Meridian, they just, one of the schools over there went into, I believe, a shelter. And a lot of the school districts throughout the state are using a poster just like this. We modified this a little bit because on this poster that had reverse evacuation, and our concern was hearing reverse evacuation, is that gonna have the opposite effect? They hear evacuation and they leave the building. So that was just one of the things that we replaced. So on this poster that's in every classroom, is it just basically say, if you hear it, you do it. It tells the teacher what to do. It tells the teacher what to say to the students and so forth. So it gives very clear, precise instruction, and it gets away from saying some of the stuff that we've been using in the past as far as soft lockdown 2. Now, this is addressing one of our biggest issues as far as how do we talk and how do we communicate. So let me go back to that. So Informacast, you heard me talk about Informacast a little bit about 2 months ago as far as what it is. And it's just an emergency alert mass notification software that brings existing devices. As for us, how we're using it this year is we're bringing speakers, we're bringing the Cisco phones, we're bringing the desktop phones, all these other items, and bringing it into Informacast, and it helps make a mass notification to everybody in the building. And so we're working through those. We're doing some trials. So I think there was only one place at our last time that we did it that did not get one of those. And so we're able to identify why it didn't get that as far as that message. So a teacher should be able to get that. So we're doing a little bit of experimenting right now as far as the mobile app goes, because we are not using 911 panic button. That was they were used in the past. There's been some issues with as far as managing that, but this is going to give us the ability to manage it. And there's some features on that mobile app where I think it'll be more convenient for a teacher if they choose to opt in to do it. And this is something that we're not going to mandate teachers to do because it'll create some resistance. I think if they see for the first hand as far as the pros that this offers and some of the issues and some of the concerns that they had with the other app, this will, I think it'll be received very well. So on the mobile communication, so on there, we have currently 55 radios in the district that are no longer VHS, and they're digital radios. And so we'll be going from 55 to 210. And so those radios are $800 a piece. And so we're using that grant money, quite a bit of that grant money, to purchase those radios and to have that for down the road as well. Prevention, a big piece. And so the reason why I felt like this needed to be part of the presentation is when I went to a conference with an FBI doing the presentation, talked about prevention versus hardening the school. And the concern he had was you can put as much money as you want into hardening a school. You just don't know how much money you're getting out of that as far as preventing something. You prevent more with, let's say, helping a student, putting interventions in place, identifying who that kid may be. You can stop things from happening a lot more versus just waiting for something to happen and hoping that you have something in place to stop that person. So the things that we have in place is we have the CTEL Now tip line that basically the state helps pay for. And so this is an anonymous tip line as far as where a student can, or a parent can do a tip as far as through the web, live call, or through the mobile app. And as of last year, we had 37 tips presented to us through that app. You heard Kizar talk about the UR more as far as the upstream and the mental health piece of that, because that's a huge component as far as just what we're looking at as far as when we do some of this threat assessment stuff that I'll get to. LineWise is just an online content filter that helps monitor violence, bullying, suicide, and PBIS. And so I don't want you to hear PBIS. It's just a coined term that gets thrown out there too freely, thinking it's going to fix everything. And the goal of just having a PBIS in place is just teaching expectations and reinforcing those expectations. Because at the end of the day, if you have a kid that's happy at school, feels supported at school, has an adult they can go to, you're really going to be preventing a lot of this frustration and humiliation they may be feeling at school, which may be driving some of these feelings they may have. Another piece is that threat assessment. I'll go into a little bit more detail as far as what we have as far as a threat assessment. Here's a protocol as far as what we have in place. When we go through, when we get notified as far as, hey, you know what, this kid made a comment, or we received a tip, whether it be a text or from whoever it may be, this is the protocol in which we go through. And the things that I'll point out here as far as the incident report and the background check, a lot of times we can identify really what's going on with that kid at the incident report and the background check, because what we're doing is we're looking at, let's say what's the history of this kid, not only just as far as within the moment, but as far as maybe the last 2, 3, 4 years, what's going on at home, what's going on with the family, and just seeing, is this thing that we're seeing or this threat that we're hearing, is it a very common way in which the student talks? Is it part of a disability? Is it a medication thing? We look at all those things that come into play. And if we start seeing like, hey, you know what? There's some things here that we need to take a little bit closer look at, we move forward with that. And so that's where we start looking at, let's say, okay, what are the behaviors of concern? What are the stressors that may be causing some of these things? And so we just go through that process as far as, okay, here's a concern, decide the course of action, which is our interventions and supports. We put a plan in place and review those things. And so when we do an assessment, here's the things that we're trying to address as far as the areas of concern. And this assessment is telling us, do we have enough information there as far as is if we have a student that comes to us, is this a vague comment? Is there detail to the comment? Is there any humiliation? Is there an ongoing issue with a student? How long has it been going on? Is there something going on at home? Do they have access to weapons? All these things that we're taking into consideration, and then we sit there and go, okay, what's the level of concern? And then we have, all right, here's our level of concern. Here's a plan that we have in place. And this year we've adopted let's say the probation to be part of the probation officers to be part of that threat assessment team. And by having them there, even though we may not have a student who's on probation, it opens up some doors to other resources. For example, they have the ECHO program, the Elmore County Community Outreach. And so they're offering, let's say, assistance to the family, things that may be causing stress at home, that may be leading to some of these things, why they're making comments. So that's just kind of the things that we look at. And so I think we can address a lot of the things that get said, it gets spread throughout the community as far as, hey, I heard this, whether it's like it came from my kid, or I heard this on the news or social media, whatever it may be, we're addressing those things. Nobody just really hears about them because we're having those conversations, we're identifying those students. So let me stop there. Did you guys have any questions on the threat assessment? I know that's a big thing for a lot of people.
Thank you. I think this kind of summarizes a lot more than just threat assessment. I like a lot of what you're doing, the direction we're going in. I think it's great. A lot of new things that I think are really good. I always get worried about the ultimate threat, and nobody wants this to happen, but you're going in the background, right? When the kid is already in the school, do the lockdowns, things like that. And I just wonder what, outside of maybe the prevention, the threat assessment you're talking about, what else can we do? Is there anything else we can do? I mean, I just.
Well, yeah, so to me, that's where you look at the future, right? This next slide here.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good. No, you're good. You're good. But all that stuff comes with a cost.
Right.
And so you start looking at, let's say, a gunshot detection, weapon detection cameras. I didn't even ask for a price on that stuff because what they end up doing is saying, all right, the camera will measure the body temperature, look at the object, and some places will send that let's say alert to a live person. They'll view it to see whether or not it meets their criteria. But if we end up doing, getting cameras that can do this, we'll probably have to replace every single camera in the district, or let's say those buildings. And you saw how many cameras we have, and especially at the high school and junior high, where this is more prevalent. So it's just things like that that have to be weighed out as far as, do you really want this? And if you do, it's going to cost quite a bit of money. So other things that have in place are, let's say, door sensors. And what that is it'll tell you how much, or let's say it'll tell you if a door has been open and didn't latch all the way, You can set the timer as far as when you want that alert to be notified, and you can decide who that goes to. So again, if you did that, that's gonna be about $3,000 per door, because we're talking about, let's say, servers. And right now we have one switch on the doors, you have to get a double switch, because now you're dealing with the door and the sensor. So it just creates more money in order to install that. So the metal detectors. So if you went with a metal detector, as far as stuff like that, I think the average cost is just right under around $4,000. You got a wand, I think on there, it says what, $400 for an average wand. If you get a wand and all these things, you're paying for additional staffing to man these. And depending on the building, you're gonna have to funnel kids through a certain door, and you're looking at, let's say, what issues is that gonna create, right? So that's kind of the future as far as kind of what things are out there right now. And at the let's say once that grant came out from Idaho, we were getting just kind of hit with all sorts of vendors as far as, hey, come check this out, as far as, let's say, bulletproof glasses, demonstrations for all those things. So it's here. And so they know there's a market for it. There's a money for it. So, and I just put that little stat there at the bottom as far as the National Centers for Education Statistics, as far as 47 people responsible for the active shooting incidents at elementary and secondary schools over the last 2 decades. The vast majority of those were 12 to 18-year-olds. So what that means is telling you is more than likely that threat within the school. More than likely, let's say if something's going to happen, as far as, let's say, the FBI doesn't say there's a profile, but what they say is more than likely you're seeing these types of things. Whereas if someone does something's been said, there's information out there that said it could have been prevented because something was said to somebody, it was posted online, there's some sort of communication that could help prevent some of these things from happening. And that's all I have as far as that presentation goes. But what questions do you have, if you have any?
I've got a couple for you.
You bet.
So the bulletproof glass, I take it that's for the actual glass and not for the film?
That was for the film.
That's for the film? You can see the person on the glass.
Yeah, but those are like quick searches.
Yeah.
So those aren't, let's say, me talking to a vendor and getting that. And so when I started getting some stuff from, I know James got hit up at the beginning of the year. I got hit up as far as all that stuff goes. And it's just hard, like, to get that as far as, are you getting taken advantage? Because I don't know much about that stuff.
Well, the other question I had is, so is Stevenson hooked up with a base? So like if you have an active shooter on base, did they get notified through the base network system that?
As far as Informacast goes?
Well, no, not as far as like Informacast goes, but like say we have an active shooter exercise on base. My computer gives me exercise, active shooter, lockdown, everybody shelter in place type thing.
They have.
So does Stevenson, what I'm asking is, does Stevenson get those same notifications from the base if there's something going on that would affect our students and our staff? And there is, if we have an active shooter on base, and we have anything going on that would affect that.
I'm trying to go back to the conversation we had at our sand exercise at the PD. And I don't know that I'll get back to you on that. I'll have the number as far as the person to contact. There's some things that we need to still work through, but that's a good question to ask. I just don't want to tell you one thing and make something up.
I just think it would be something good very important for them to have.
Yeah, because I know what they're talking about is last year talking about installing a panic button at the schools for them, but those are just conversations.
Right. And the last one I had is on the SROs. I know a couple of years ago, the city was looking at trying to make us pay for the SROs. Are they still doing that? Or
I know the school, let's say, I don't know. I know that was a conversation at 2 years ago? I don't know if you.
Yeah, at this point, no.
No.
Still covers that stuff.
But the school that I talked to as far as in the conference, they look at that as far as paying for SROs. And it was a lot more expensive than hiring a contracted security out.
I was gonna ask you about that school district you were talking about. Have you, obviously you've had some interaction with them. What kind of feedback have you received, if any, on how it's going for them? With what they've done? Has it been last year or is this the first year they've done it?
This is, I believe this is second year. Yeah, so when I talked to them, they were still in their first year. And so the things that they made sure they had in their agreement is the armed security, their job was not to get involved with, let's say, fights or disagreements or any of those type of things. Their job was to deal with or just provide security and walk around and do that. And so what they did was they hired ex-police officers and ex-military folks who had a background with that. So I think probably now they probably have a lot better idea, but when I talked to them at the beginning of this, they were still at the beginning of this and trying to work through those things.
Any other questions for Mr. Walker? All right, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, a couple items as a link to the agenda. Just a reminder, parent teacher conferences are Thursday. Those will go until 8 p.m. So the district is closed on Friday. And then the only other thing I wanted to, I probably should have had this in the good news section, but the Tiger Open raised $16,000 this year, which is pretty phenomenal. But I wanted to send a thanks out to the individuals that helped really put this together. They had a Tiger Open committee. That committee was Andrea Feenstra, Terry Manduca, Janet Dodge, Amanda Denise Sandberg, Nikki Cruiser, and Kelly Gilbert. And so they did a lot of the planning on that committee, and it was rather impressive. That's all I have.
Thank you. Questions for Mr. Gilbert? All right, Board of Trustees Public Engagement Report. Did you guys have anything to report?
No.
No?
So, I had engagement with the mayor and several people at the Republican Committee's mayor forum for the candidates. Brought up in my personal capacity, not as representing the district, about the charter school on base and their pursuit of it. And why was the city pursuing it? The mayor said that he was hands off after he got the information provided on how it was going to affect us. However, he would not instruct his city contractor to stand down on the charter school.
Thank you. Anybody else? New business, pay policy adoption, Mr. Gilbert, the student disciplinary evaluation policy 540.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the first two policies this month, the student disciplinary violations and the guidelines for disciplinary violations policy. This is just more of us tearing down that giant school safety and discipline policy and building some standalone policies. So I would ask for your approval of the first reading of the student disciplinary violations policy and then the guidelines for disciplinary violations policy.
We get a motion to approve both policies in the first reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Use of district-owned physical property policy 9/10/25.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the use of the district-owned physical property policy. This is the policy that was requested out of the trustees to address adornment of school facility walls and that type of thing. And so the policy addresses what is considered district-owned property and what things are appropriate to be displayed in those district-approved areas. As you can see, there's some verbiage here, lines 27 through 46 or 47 that really address the appropriate items according to the policy. Be happy to answer your questions.
Remember reading through this, but the building principal will have some say if there's a question. Within the balance of the policy.
Yeah, I think that the big thing with this is anything that's displayed outside of, you know, as it says here, outside of the state flags, the United States flag, anything else needs to be on display that supports the, curriculum that's being taught at that time, and they're not permanent displays. And then there's some things in there too about like student artwork and school sports and activities types of things as well.
Mr. Gilbert, we passed tonight, when would this take effect? When is that happen?
So this is the first reading, so the third reading will be in December, so it will be effective after the December one.
Any other questions? for Gilbert? We get a motion to approve the district owned physical property policy. Second. All in favor? Any opposed? Policy revision, board authority policy.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this month, there's two policies that were revised. The first is the board authority policy. If you look on the bolded information on lines 4 and 5, and again, there's some additional on 13 and 14. And that's it. So I would ask for your approval of the changes to the board authority policy denying enrollment, board of trustees statement.
We can motion to approve the policy, board authority policy.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Board meeting policy.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the second policy with revisions is the board meetings policy 266, regular, special, and executive meetings of the board, and the language there was just added to clarify what those meetings are and what requirements each of those hold.
We get a motion to approve the board policy meeting. First reading.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any identify areas of need for ISBA board training? I think we kind of narrowed it down to 3 last. And we had CIP, the evaluation, and whatever the heck the other one was. We feel good with those 3.
Yes.
Yeah, you need it now.
What?
Don't put me on the spot. The continuous improvement plan, the evaluation. What was the third one? It's in our minutes.
Strategic
planning.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't strategic planning the same as continuous improvement?
Yes. Okay.
It's a good amount, I thought.
It was CIP and strategic planning, superintendent evaluation. Yeah, they did separate them out into 2 separate ones.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, did you want me to contact Mr. Board as far as scheduled training, or would you like to speak to him, or?
No, you can. I know we kind of talked about maybe starting in January. But, you know, that's what for the board. You guys want to try to get something before then?
I don't think anybody else is available after. Like in mid-November anyway.
You would be available marathon afternoon, imagine.
Yeah, we can start in January. And post it. We get an action on that. Or we get a motion for whatever that would be called.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Termination of the ISBA resolutions. Quick, there's 7 of them.
When we discussed them, I think we were in agreement with all of them except it was number 6, whatever.
Did have a recommendation.
Right. That was their recommendation in favor.
The first one was the school agent accountability requirements, and I think that was a big pass, right? Recommendation.
Yes.
They were all you have, 6 didn't have a recommendation.
Right, I think we were all good with it. I think we want to discuss, I believe, 6 would be the streamlining ISD system priorities. All right.
But this one was brought up last year. If we did any of the expiring resolutions we passed, instead of revoting on it every couple of years. To just, well, if they, just, as long as they still align with what we're trying to do and having it already passed by the legislature, you just continually work to getting a previous one passed. So they're not passed. Right. So we don't have 4 or 5 resolutions every year because 7 of them expired last year.
Yeah, which makes sense, especially with the example they provided there. At the end of the day, if we don't like it, we vote against it.
Yeah.
Right, for the business session.
Yeah.
I would too. With that being said, are we good if you pass them all and then recommend pass on the 6?
Did you say it was pass on the 6?
Yeah. Whatever motion that would be, somebody wants to make it.
I would make a motion that we support the recommendations presented by ISBA for their resolution for the upcoming legislative year.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The appointed delegation representative for annual ISBA, you want to just go. Rock, paper, scissors? There is a chance I may not be there. I plan on being there this one, on that Friday morning, so. I would nominate trustee Benny.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
One by one.
It's 4-1 vote. All right, if we get a motion to go into executive session,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor? Any opposed? We need a roll call. on this.
Trustee Knopf? Aye. Trustee Vinnie?
Aye.
Yes. Election vote. Ready to-
I'm not.